The one thing I hate more than anything else is adjusters following the advice of other adjusters and joining rosters and then sitting on their ass and waiting for a phone call. It drives me crazy, Matt. It drives me crazy. What business would you ever condone just sitting and waiting?
Welcome to the show. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your business and what you guys are doing to help adjusters crush it?
Yeah, man, definitely. Well, my name's Jeremy Rettig. I am an independent insurance adjuster based in the Northeast. I do daily claims, do CAT claims. I've done all different types of claims. And I'm also happen to be the founder of AdjusterUniversity.com. I founded Adjuster University a few years back after, I got tired of training people in real life. I had a somewhat of a tough upbringing and didn't perform well in school, never went to college, and found myself at a certain spot where I was managing a bar at night and doing odd jobs during the day. I'd be lucky to break 50 in a year. To be honest, I'd be lucky to break 30 in a year. And met some guys that called themselves cat adjusters and decided that I didn't have anything better going on in my life. So I chased after it. And in less than a year, I found myself holding a Texas adjuster's license. And in that next calendar year, I made more than the last 3 years working. Then at that point, I just kept going up and up and found myself in a little spot where I was making more money than anybody I knew, even, family members that have been in business for years. And that was cool until it started to get tiring, having to pick up the tab everywhere you go, having to get hit up by all your family members when they need to borrow some money. And, I decided, if I reached a point where I had so much work coming in that I knew that if I just had somebody that I could give my work to, they would make six figures just off my scraps. And I started training people in my local areas, training friends of friends, until I just got to a point where I was like, man, I gotta take this on the road. I gotta make this scalable somehow. And one thing led to another. A few years later, here I am. I got Adjuster University, and we sell different courses for independent insurance adjusters to help them improve their status in the industry, get more claims, and be able to close them faster. Because if there's one thing that I've excelled at more than anything else in this, is my ability to market myself, my ability to sell myself services. Because, a lot of adjusters complain. The number one complaint, and Matt, you could probably attest to this, is that nobody wants to hire you if you don't have any experience.
Right.
And hey, most of us didn't have experience either.
That's right.
So, we don't have anything to rely on. And I knew that at the very beginning. So what I had at that moment that I don't think most other adjusters have when they're in their similar moment is the foresight and understanding that if I'm not going to be able to beat out my competition with my experience, then I'm going to beat them out with my sales, with my ability to market myself. And fast forward to right now. And founder of Adjuster University, and loving every minute of it, man.
Facing a lawsuit can be a terrifying and stressful experience, jeopardizing your years of hard work and success. If you don't have adequate insurance coverage as an adjuster, you're putting yourself at great financial risk. If you make your living from handling claims as an independent adjuster, then you must get errors and omissions and general liability insurance coverage. It doesn't matter if you're a 1099 or a W-2 or you work carrier direct. Protect yourself with professional liability insurance from Kaplik. To find out more and to download the Insurance for Adjusters free guide, head on over to cplic.net/adjustertv. That's cplic.net/adjustertv. Adjusters, I think because we're not working for like an hourly wage or a salary, we're basically, it's still to this day, I think that's still the model. We're getting paid by the claim. Experienced adjusters, when you go out
Right.
on daily claims, when you go do big cat stuff, you're getting paid by the claim. So those are basically, each one of those is its own sale, right? So that's basically
Right.
our sales. So we really do, like you said, we have to run our career like we are running a business. So tell us a little bit talk to adjusters about, how they can market themselves, what other like basic business skills that they're going to need in order to really make this job worth it. Because I think on its own,
Right.
the work can be tiring and repetitive, and it can wear you down. So you have to have it structured in such a way that it's going to be worth it, all that work.
Right. Right. So I want to kind of cut to a chase here, and this is definitely a point you can argue on. Listen, the work at times sucks, right?
Yeah.
We kind of enjoy the work. In the very beginning, when I first started this, I didn't hate the work. It was exciting. It was new to me. I was all in, but listen, if the work was really all that great, kids would be wanting to be claims adjusters when, at a young age. And that's just not it. I mean, when you look at the older people that are, claims adjusters here, I mean, they're, they don't seem that happy in general. The ones that are happy are the ones that really made this career into something. Okay. They're the ones that were successful at it. And fortunately / unfortunately, those are kind of few and far in between, right? What I stress for my students to be that successful story, is to not be one of these adjusters that have been doing it for 20, 30 years, and now they're just jaded from the industry, and all they want to do is write denials all day because they're upset with their life, So to get back to your point, first, when my initial thought was, when you kind of made the introduction to the question, was that you need to understand business, you need to know sales, know marketing, and all this sort of stuff. And if you're just watching this now, then it could almost seem a bit too much. But I want to preface everything by saying that independent insurance adjusting is a great business to get into, because it is a fantastic starter business. Okay, there's a lot of things that you don't need to worry about when you're first starting out as a independent adjuster. Okay, you don't have to worry about massive payroll. You don't have to do you're not running a bunch of employees. You don't need to carry a bunch of different, liability insurance and workers' comp insurance, and you need to get an accountant to manage all you don't need all of that. I mean, at the very, very base of it, it is a solopreneur, they call it, right? It's a very basic business. You're going to do all the legwork yourself. You're going to go out there. Maybe you've got a wife or husband or partner, brother, whatever the case is, that are going to help out with certain aspects of it. But it is, for the most part, it's going to be a pretty simple job. Okay. You're going to be able to handle all the overhead, and it's really not going to be that much. But what's going to separate you from someone that's going to fit in this smaller segment of people that are just, they've got their license and they're trying to figure out what's the next step. They're not making the money that they thought they would. It's a few basic premises. It's understanding that no one is actively looking for you, no matter what. The only exception to that, I guess, is if you're on somebody's roster and they need somebody, and your name happens to pop up. But and a lot of new adjusters, they're going to, obviously they're going to join a couple of rosters, and they're going to think that that's all they need to do. And eventually they're going to get a phone call, and they may get lucky and they get that phone call. But that's not what I'm about. And that's not the path to success, in my opinion. Yeah. The path to success is pursuing your sales, not waiting for sales to fall on your lap, and presenting yourself in a way where these IA firms feel obligated to work with you. They feel as if working with you they accept that working with you is going to be beneficial to their business. And that's what's going to get them to bring you on board. There's a fine line between getting an opportunity based on luck or chance and that particular client of yours at that time just having absolutely no choice but to bring you on, which is, what's going to happen during cat events, or between that and actually pursuing companies and getting local work right now. The one thing I hate more than anything else is adjusters following the advice of other adjusters and joining rosters and then sitting on their ass and waiting for a phone call. Yeah. It drives me crazy, Matt. It drives me crazy. What business would you ever condone just sitting and waiting? It's madness to me that people think that's okay. It's this business, every business survives on sales. Every business. Okay. There's no exceptions to that. There's no business that's there that can survive off no sales. I don't care if it's a charity. You still got to bring money in. Right.
Yep.
So that's so adjusters, and this is a big thing. And adjusters get involved in this. They hear about the money and they think that the key to making money is just getting certifications, right? Just getting certifications, getting licenses, and however many states have licenses, 40 something, whatever the actual number is, 37. I don't know.
Like that.
Yeah. Man, it's just bad advice. And that's part of the reason why I even started Adjuster University. I was taking all bad advice. Although I did real well in my first year, man, I could have probably made twice as much as I actually did if I started actually following advice that was, legit. I was following advice from people that had been adjusting for 10, 15 years, thinking, well, that's what you want to do, right? You want to you take advice from the people that have been here the longest. Meanwhile, that 10, 15 years, you don't even, in this world, they could have been sitting on a one firm's cat roster for 10 years, working 2 months a year,
Right, yeah.
Man, sorry, I kind of go on a little rant. I get so upset about these issues that adjusters have. But man, it's that's bad. Matt, can you hear the background here?
Yeah, you got some kids upstairs playing or something?
No, I have a dog upstairs that's playing.
So, and now I hear the barking.
Sorry about that.
Kind of to your what you were saying a little bit at the beginning of what you said there. You're a solopreneur as a new adjuster, right? And I think that what I always teach and what I always try to do myself is to everybody has to know how to do every part of their business before they can outsource it, before they can hand it off or delegate it.
Absolutely.
Because they got to know how to, what kind of outcome they want from that particular process, whether it's like how you do your checking in savings account, where you save your money, what comes in and what goes out,
100%.
How you want to do your estimates, right? So a lot of times people will say, hey, I'll ride along with you and I'll write estimates for you. I am not letting anybody touch my computer.
Like it's a simple, like it's a chore,
Right. I can teach somebody how I want it done and then outsource it to them, but I'm not just going to hand it off to somebody. Same thing with my phone calls, like my scheduling and everything else.
Right.
So,
because that goes into your quality. I mean, now once you get somebody else doing that work for you, I mean, if they're not going to stand, the quality is going to change. Your work product changes at that point, and that goes into what we were touching on before with treating it like a business. Okay. It's not, I mean, you think if you worked in a restaurant and I asked you, just if you worked at Applebee's and I said, hey, Matt, you want me to jump on grill for you for a little bit? You're like, yeah, sure. Go on. Help me get my job done. It doesn't matter. Right. This is not Applebee's, bud. This is claims and you're an independent. I mean, even if we worked for a carrier and I wanted to, and we both work for the same carrier and I had a claim and I'm about to knock off and go to, Myrtle Beach for a week. I could kick that over to you and it's whatever. Hopefully you don't mess it up. But if you do, I don't know, we probably both got a manager that'll deal with it. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's not that same game,
Right.
you know? It's you know, and a lot of, especially new adjusters, they just don't know, you know, handing things off to somebody else, like writing an estimate. I mean, you know, phone calls is one thing, but man, like estimates are taking photos. If you have somebody go with you inside of a house and take photos,
yeah,
like, you know, and that's the biggest drawback on teams. Like, you know, if you think you're going to go out and you're going to have your husband or your wife go with you or your bud, and they're going to go in and you're going to write them up and they're going to inspect them, and it's going to be like you're just working twice as fast. I mean, sorry, that's not how this is going to work. You're going to be either inaccurate, you're going to be slower just because you weren't actually there, or a combination of the both, probably both.
Yeah, for sure. And you're going to get your files kicked back for corrections. I had
easy
one on my first storm. Is my very first storm. I went with a couple of guys, and hopefully they're not listening to this. Actually, even if they are, I think they knew what happened when it happened. So we decided to team up because they were released before I was. I still had claims left or whatever, and so one guy was on the roof and one guy was scoping the elevations, and I was sitting in the car. We had walkie-talkies. And
really? Oh, okay. You had a little operation there.
We did this for like 2 or 3 days maybe. And I got called into the office. My manager was like, what's going on with your files? You had this level of quality, up until like this week. And then all of a sudden everything started to change and it's different than what it was before. What's going on? And I was like, well, I have a couple guys helping me. And they're like, well, we think that you should probably just go back to doing it all yourself.
Right. Right.
And not because necessarily that they weren't doing a bad job. I mean, both those guys are still adjusters today. It's that it was different than what I was turning in. And I have it's the file. I think ultimately, if you have 10 adjusters, you should really get basically the 10 same files if they all look at the same house.
Right.
But, they do notice. So when like you said, the long story short, it's gonna show up in your work. And if they misspell something or they don't use spell check, right, in your diary notes or in your estimate line item notes, right, those things get kicked back if the file reviewer notices them.
Right. And you're certifying that work too at that point. If you get it, kicked back a week or two later, or could be a month or so later. Shoot, you could have handled a claim in Florida, and a year and a half later, you're getting deposed, in court, and now you're gonna have to justify some BS that your buddy wrote up.
These days, there are a growing number of remote work opportunities for independent adjusters. With scoper writer programs popping up all over the place, you can do photo and scope in the field, or you can just sit at home in your PJs and write the estimates on what the scoper got when they were out in the field. And it doesn't matter where you live, as long as you have the internet, you can write claims as a desk adjuster. But you can't get that sweet gig without being licensed. So if you live in Nebraska, which doesn't require an adjuster to be licensed, you still have to have a New York license to write claims somebody scoped in New York. Make sense? Of all the credentials you need as an adjuster, there really is none more important than your adjuster license, especially your first one. You're going to need it to do just about everything else, including some adjuster schools even require you to have one before they'll let you enroll. So you need Adjuster Pro. Adjuster Pro provides a comprehensive and easy to use way to get and maintain your adjuster licenses. Most importantly, Adjuster Pro was founded by independent adjusters, and the team at Adjuster Pro is dedicated to helping you thrive as an adjuster with resources for every licensing state, including dead simple CE packages. Adjuster Pro is the gold standard for adjuster licensing. You'll find everything you need to get licensed in one place. Go to adjustertv.com/adjusterpro right now. And as far as people sitting around under rear ends and waiting for work, I think that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily understand, is that when you go on a major cat, like if there's a Hurricane Katrina, right? A lot of adjusters got their start on Hurricane Katrina. There's resources to help, but those resources are, I've never seen a help room on a hurricane that wasn't swamped, 3 people deep around the table.
Like a firm's like war room that they might have or something like that. Yeah.
And they've got 2 or 3 people in there trying to help 25 people. And there's people sitting out in the hall. It's
good luck.
Absolutely incumbent on people to be ready with some experience. I mean, if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. But I think people have to be prepared for it. And there's ways to get prepared. Like you said, there's ways to get experience without having actual experience, so that even though when you market yourself to a firm and you say, hey, I'm brand new, I want to get on the roster, whether you've got experience or not, they're going to probably put you on their roster. Your first big chance.
That's easy.
Yeah. The first big chance you have to demonstrate that your value is on that first CAT deployment. And if you're ready with preparation and training that you've done on your own through, guidance or mentoring, then you're going to be able to hit the ground running instead of flailing around and going into the help room all the time. And that's one of the reasons why guys like you and me started doing this, because I started doing this because I saw people on big hurricane deployments that were washing out in the first 2 weeks, or they're 6 weeks in and they haven't turned in a claim yet. Right, a hurricane claims.
Right.
There's a bunch of severe damage on the coast, and then 100,000 like light wind claims. They're the easiest claims.
Love them. Love those guys.
Yes, trees. I mean, I'll take tree claim. I mean, so these adjusters. I mean, 6 weeks in, like on Sandy, I was sitting in the manager's meeting, like a conference call, and the guy who was running the meeting was yelling at us because he's like demanding that we have because I did field support on that storm, yelling at us, demanding that we get our adjusters to close claims. He's like, it's 6 weeks into this storm, and we have a lot of adjusters out there who still haven't closed a claim yet.
Right.
I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. Just insane.
It kind of goes into, what we spoke about a minute ago. It's the CAT events are great because that's where you're going to get your crack. If you're new, and even if you're new and your sales and your marketing's not that great, now this is finally your chance to overcome the big hurdle of getting experience on your resume. It's really great for that. But I'll tell you, Matt, what drives me crazy, that happens. You get those guys that go out that might have traveled from Texas to New York, New Jersey, or wherever, because Superstorm Sandy hit. Now they got a chance, right?
Yeah.
You think, why did they get involved in this in the first place? They got involved probably because of the money, right? The one single best opportunity, I don't even know if I'd say arguably, but one of the best opportunities to make money in a short amount of time is during a CAT, especially if it's a hurricane, right? Yeah. Winter storms suck. Hurricanes are way better.
Right.
So
hail's the best.
You got in this for the money. Right. Hey, we'll get to that. But so you got in this for the money. Your first crack at doing this came because of one of the events where you can make the most amount of money. Now, what drives me freaking bananas is that person who just inspected their 20th some odd claim and hasn't submitted a single thing. There's a reason. The reason why they haven't submitted anything. And if you're watching this right now and you haven't handled a claim and you're thinking, yeah, well, that's them, I'm not going to be like that. Yeah, well, we'll freaking see. Because sometimes you just don't have the time to figure it out on the fly. You did 5 or 6 or whatever claims. You were busting your butt all freaking day long, and you're finally back to the Motel 6, and you're there, you're exhausted, you've never worked like this before, you're physically and emotionally drained, and now you have to figure out not only how to estimate for damage, which you may or may not have done before. And even if you have done it before, maybe you did it on the contractor level where you just had to write that shit up. You never had to actually dig through thousands and thousands of line items and put them in there and apply depreciation and set coverages and all that jazz. Right. Then you got to do your photos. Then you got to put your photos in order. And God forbid your photos don't match the estimate. That shit's coming right back to you. And then you're going to have to actually write a report halfway that can be read by another human being. Okay. And then you're going to have to do that for the 20 claims that you sandbagged being you. And then the more claims, and I don't know about you, Matt, but I can say this about myself and everybody else, being behind on 5 claims, your morale is okay. You'll get those 5 claims in, you'll skip lunch, boom, bang them out. When you're 25 in a hole, you start to look at that stack of paper and you're like, I got to do laundry. I got to get out of here. You know? So now that's us. That could be, that's me at least. And that's after 10 freaking years. I'm still like that. If you're new and you're 25 in the hole, that's when people start to crack. And that's when people start becoming bartenders, So, my point is this. Well, that happens because from that moment that person got their license, let's say they got their license in January, right? And from January to August, they just posted in Facebook groups talking about, who's hiring right now. That's been, the number one, that's been the only thing they did. Apply to some rosters, try to figure out who's hiring. And then here we are in August, we get a hurricane hits land. You're out there. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to pay off my mortgage here. And you got these 25 claims and you don't know what to do. And now you're starting to think that this whole thing was a mistake because in those 9 months, you didn't think you had to do anything. Just apply for places. Yeah. You didn't actually figure it out. Now, if you were even, and here's the number one thing that pisses me off. That adjuster probably rationalized not spending $250 a month for a subscription to Xactimate for that whole time. Yeah. Right? So let's say like 10 months, $250 at 10 months. It's $2,500. Don't get me wrong. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money over almost an entire year. But listen, because you didn't spend $2,500 there, which legitimately is what? Even if you were new, 2 days worth of work, something like that. Even if you're struggling to get a single claim submitted, you just lost out on everything. Now, even if you were to do that, and you're going to still struggle. You're not going to be as fast as some of these people that have been doing this for a long time. But man, at that point, at least the number one, I've got a class lined up in our Facebook group, the Claims Adjuster Success Network, and the name of that class is Your Number One Delay, Estimating. Yeah, because that's going to be the number one thing that's going to slow you down. So if you don't take steps way in advance to get that delay fixed, you're going to suffer in the long run. Even if you are to get through it, you don't sandbag 25, you get them in, you're doing your thing, you're taking them at a good pace, you're listening to your managers, you're still learning when you should be making money. Yeah. You had 9 months to learn and you waited until the end. I always call it like I spoke about Hurricane Irma this way, where once I thought it was going to be Harvey, but it didn't really work out. But then Hurricane Irma hit, and that was the first real heavy cat that I had been a part of, where I was going after high volume and just, doing everything that I've learned in the years before. I had other cats or whatnot, but Irma was the first time that I looked at it, and with the fee scales that were out there, I thought that this was my real opportunity to make a killing.
Did you know that there is an adjuster school out there that has a full catastrophe property claims deployment simulation that you can sign up for training? Let's talk about this. Veteran Adjusting School in Sedona, Arizona is just such a school. As a licensed vocational school, Veteran Adjusting School trains you to become a complete insurance adjuster. When you graduate from the VOS trained insurance adjuster program, you are ready to begin your exciting new career, whether as a daily adjuster or as a CAT adjuster. Listen, there are many outstanding adjuster schools out there, and you've got to get trained somewhere. VOS stands out among its peers for the depth and breadth of its program, which is a 6-week catastrophe deployment simulation complete with claims assignments, insured interactions, real damage that you can scope, as well as its continuing support and mentorship long after graduates become working adjusters, all of which provide a significant advantage to you. I mean, there's truly nothing else like it. Go to adjustertv.com/VAS now and chat with an enrollment specialist who will answer all of your questions and help you decide if VAS is the right choice for you. Again, go to adjustertv.com/VAS.
I made little killings before, but this was like, that was the time. So I looked at my, whatever it was before that, 7 years of experience there. I looked at that as like that was regular season. Those were regular season games, right?
Yep.
I was getting ready for the playoffs, and then I skipped the playoffs. I went straight to the Super Bowl. Hurricane Irma was the Super Bowl. I took everything that I learned in those 7 years, and I was like, well, we got to do it now. This is it. You got to apply everything you did, every single efficiency hack, everything. You got to, now's where it matters. Who knows when the next Hurricane Irma is going to hit? We're going to bang 15 out a day, and we're going to get them submitted that day. And then the next day, we're going to get up at 5 a.m. We're going to jump out of bed. We're going to pound back like 5 coffees, and we're going to do another 15. And we're going to do that till the wheels fall off.
Right.
And thankfully that's what happened. But you're not going to get like that. You're not going to get like that if you're new and you've been sitting on your butt for 9 months just waiting for a storm to hit.
Yeah, big time, man. I think I don't think we can really stress it enough that the estimating part and trying to find your way around Xactimate is the literal number one biggest bottleneck.
That's it.
I think for really anybody brand new to claims. You've got to practice. I mean, I talk about this all the time. If you don't have any other guidance, if you're not taking any training, which should be, just have a subscription to Xactimate and practice a little bit every day. And I tell people, I say, listen, I mean, if you're going to learn a musical instrument, you can do it one of two ways. You can try to practice, 4 hours every single day, but you're going to get burned out, right? I would say learn one song, pick a song that you like, sounds fairly easy, and practice it for 20 to 40 minutes a day, 15 minutes even, right? Just a little piece of it. Get it to where you can play it all the way through one time, super slow, and then put the guitar down and just go off and do whatever else. And then the next day, pick it up again, and you'll be a little bit faster the next time.
You can see the progression there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I tell people, I say, listen, let's just here's all the 6 steps or the 9, whatever, however many steps we got, right? Pretend there's a water spot on the ceiling in this room and scope
it. What would you do?
Go, get your risk photo and then come in here, take a few photos, measure the room, say, okay, there's some drywall, blah, blah, blah. Write a little 4-line item estimate in Xactimate, and then pretend like you're going to do a settlement call with an insured. Hey, I just got done with your estimate, and the damage to the ceiling, I put it into my estimating software and came up with this number. So we're going to send you a check for $600. If you have any questions,
and that's assuming you even have to do that.
Right, exactly. And a lot of these days, people aren't going to have to do that. But I think that that focused, short, makes it easier for people to do it, because then it's like, you can have two different kinds of snowballs, right? You can snowball where you've got 3 claims behind, the next day it turns into 7 claims behind, the next day it turns into 21 claims behind, and then you're an absolute train wreck. You're going to have to stop everything for 3 days in order to get caught up. Or you can have a little snowball with, like you said, incremental improvements over the course of several days, several weeks, a couple of 2, 3, 4, 9 months, whatever it is. And then when you show up, you've got all that muscle memory. You already know how to put your photos in. You already know how to get through the labeling, of your photos quickly. You know what an F9 note is. You know how to macro is. You know where to find the activity diary. You know all that stuff. So when they say, just put it in your activity diary and send it up. You're not like, well, what's that? Because that's what everybody says. You just know.
Right. Yeah, waiting on somebody to get back to you in a Facebook group.
Oh, man.
But even Sketch, too. Sketch is a big one, too, if you're not familiar with it. Trying to sit there for hours putting a roof sketch together.
Oh,
You're spending 3 hours, doing a couple rooms, and it's still going to come out like garbage. And part of it is it comes into a lack of training. You've got the Xactimate certifications, right? Which, the certifications are one thing. And I've said this before. It's, in my opinion, those certifications are the bare minimum. Okay.
sure.
That level 3 really just means that you understand, a good amount of Xactimate, a fair amount of Xactimate. It does not make you a freaking pro at it. It just means that you understand, the software through and through. Right. Doesn't mean you're going to close claims fast. It's right. two completely different things.
Yeah, claims workflow versus proficiency in the software.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you could go. I know Xactware has a bunch of different training courses that you can take, and it'll guide you through, figuring out the square break, how to put together this, floor plan, how to, use how to build roof diagrams and stuff like that. And it's very good. It is very good. But what that doesn't teach you, which even if you got that down, right? Even if you got it down, you could put together a floor plan like a mother. You could, put roof sketches together, assuming that you even want to do that. Right. You get real good at that. But then, listen, you're up to the next phase now. What do you do after you get your sketch done? You got to estimate now. You got to look at, you got to put the line items in there. And if you think that you could just throw some line items in there, be done, move on to the next one, I mean, you might get away with that the first 2 weeks on a big event because nobody's paying attention to your stuff. And by the time that, you get those kickbacks, you've already been released and you close that email account out, but if you're looking to make money doing this, then you got to look at two things. There's when you want to maximize your deployment, right? And I love your input on this. You're looking at really two things, and that is making the most amount of money per claim and getting the most amount of claims. Yeah. And when I say the most amount of claims, I don't mean on the first drop. That first drop doesn't mean a whole lot because no matter who you are, you have a general range of how many claims you're going to get done, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you inspected 15 that day, 15 every single day for 7 straight days. There, depending on the event, of course, there's going to be, and your skill level, there's going to be a certain amount that you can actually do. And if you're new, you're not going to do 15 a day.
No.
If you're new, maybe 2, 3, I don't know, something like that. But so if somebody gives you 100 at the first drop, it really doesn't matter too much because you're at best going to only submit 3 or 4 of those a day. It doesn't matter if they give you 100 on the first or 50 and then another 50 later on. Your target is to get the most amount through the entire event, right?
Yep.
That's it. And that's gonna come down to you staying in the event for as long as possible. So how do you stay in the event for as long as possible? Well, you become somebody that they want to work with, somebody that they can rely on, somebody that has a consistent product, okay? Somebody who they don't have to worry about. And if you're new, and then that brings you to this. If you're new, you want to have the least amount of impact on your client, more likely than not. And when I say that, what I mean is you don't want to constantly be needing their assistance, your client.
That's
okay.
Right.
Because then it's going to take them more time and effort just to keep you there. And you may be great. They may like you and whatnot, but if you're not from around there, if you're not a local person, there's going to reach a time where they just got to let you go. It's just too much for them. Look for other people to help you just so you can be that person who they know, oh, we can assign these claims out to Matt. Matt, he gets them done. We don't have to worry about him. He's not going to bother us. We got enough headaches. We're worried about these other crap adjusters, but that guy, we send them there, they come back, they're good to go. They're going right up. No, very few supplements, very few re-inspections coming from Matt. His files are on point. And when they have to start making cuts, they're going to look at stuff like that. They're going to look at stuff like that. They're going to look at stuff like turnaround times, right? Cycle times, right? So that's how you're going to stay there. Now, my point was this. The point that I was going to get at, whenever I started this rant, was, it's estimating, right? So that's what it's come down to. So when you're not estimating right, you're either leaving money on the table, or you put way too much money on the table and somebody's going to take that money from you before you get it.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean, file reviewers or the carrier is going to step in and say, take all this BS out of here. And you don't want that because it's a reflection on poor quality, right? So you need to understand scoping. You need to understand scoping, and you need to understand line items, because just because you can go inside of a house and say, oh, we got there's water damage to a ceiling, you gotta fix that up, put new drywall and paint. You got to know how to transcribe that into Xactimate language. You got to know, okay, if you're using water mitt line items, you're going to use a tear out line item. You're going to put up 5/8 drywall. You're going to seal that with a PVA, and then you're going to paint the ceiling. Maybe you also got to follow some estimating guidelines too. That's the stuff that Xactimate is not going to teach you.
Right. Yep.
So you got to find, that's a whole different type of training. And, we're coming up actively right now at Adjuster University to have that training, to have both the training that you're going to get in order for you to get that level 3 certification, but also in my opinion, the way more valuable training where you're going to actually learn scoping. You're going to look at damage and say, okay, I understand there's water running above that cabinet, upper cabinet. So I'm going to take that cabinet down. We're going to replace the drywall there. And then we got hardwood down there that's buckled up. These are the line items that I'm going to use. And this is how I'm going to treat this type of loss. So because until you know that, I mean, you could know Xactimate up and down. You'll be able to use a square break in your sleep. But if you don't know how to estimate, you only know a portion of the job.
That's right. And I think again, just like what we just said, I mean, you could be an Xactimate level 37, certified master. You could be the president of Xactware. But if you don't know the claims workflow, if you can't manage your time, right? If you can't do it all with a smile and be somebody pleasant to work with, I mean, like what you said,
that's huge.
Absolutely key. Then you're not gonna get more than that first pile that they gave you. And again, I mean, to your point, there's a risk that money that those claims represents, even though those are sitting in your queue, they could get taken away from you, and you could get
100%.
As an independent adjuster, do you feel like you only have bad, expensive choices for health insurance plans? And when you have to use the insurance, you'll have to pay a lot out of pocket? Makes you wonder why you even have insurance in the first place. The stakes are high. Having no coverage puts you and your family at risk. It doesn't have to be this way. You want peace of mind with common sense health coverage you can count on. That doesn't include things you don't need. You need real insurance with world-class protection from established carriers, not health sharing and not cobbled together prepaid medical. And you shouldn't have to wait for it. Get approved in days, not weeks. There is no risk and no cost to see if you qualify for these high-quality plans. Not everybody will qualify, but you've got nothing to lose by getting a free consultation. Visit adjustertv.com/health for more information and to apply.
It happens all the time. All the time. In fact, a lot of adjusters will have claims taken away because they're still trying to get caught up and ramped up, and then they get some given back to them later when they get caught up on these big events.
Right.
That's a perilous place to be.
I'll tell you something that benefited me, but I can't help but just feel kind of terrible about it. And it was another Hurricane Irma story. At a certain point, I jumped on with a new claims company, and this was, I don't know, this was a handful of weeks in, maybe like a month or so into the actual storm. And I got on with a new claims company, and they had an adjuster that cracked, right? Mm-hmm. That adjuster had, I don't know how many files altogether. All I know is I think they assigned me somewhere between 10 and 15 of this one adjuster's files. And they said, listen, this person, they're not finishing up these claims. We have to assign them back out to get them done. Can you get them handled? I say, of course, I'm going to do. I got you back, right? Hey, yep, I'm in. Yep. So I'm going to say whatever I got to say to make you like me more. And so they sent them over, and I'm thinking, okay, we just got 15 more claims. I got to make the call. They're going to be pissed, whatever, and we're going to get this thing re-inspected and try to replace some roofs out of the deal. So, and they're using their own CMS system. So I go in there and I start looking at these files, and I'm like, okay, let me let me see here. All right, we got photos. All right, so I'm taking a look at the photos. I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of damage there. All right, and then I see we got a estimate. I look at the estimate. I'm like, it's full roof, this and that. It's not a really great estimate. I can certainly fix it up. It's like 9,000. Come on. I could probably get it to 10,000 and put the right line items in. And then I look and I'm like, there's no report. That's it. I got the photos. I got, it's only roof damage. I got, I'm good with these photos. I've got the diagram that's already done. They already ordered the Eagle View or whatever. It's just missing the report. That's it. I just wrote up the report, sent that thing in, and made $1,000. I probably did that if they sent me 15, I probably did that with at least 10. So probably somewhere $7,500, $10,000 that I made just signing my name at the bottom of somebody else's work.
Pretty much.
Because they didn't get it in. And because I remember these what I do remember is the photos, right? I remember seeing it and the photos were like mid-September, which was, I think that storm hit in I think it was like September 11th, right? So this person, probably like we talked about before, went out, got deployed. Woo! I'm going to make a bunch of money. Inspected a whole bunch, sandbagged them, and then realized, oh my God, I'm in such shit now. I can't do this. And and then got to the point of writing a report. I think some were missing an estimate, something like that. They had, this adjuster had little pieces of the job done.
Right.
And that was it, and cracked. They didn't get paid on those claims.
No,
if that was, you put yourself in their shoes, that might have been, obviously this person was new. So they might have already traveled from who knows where to get to Florida to do these claims, incur the expense of a hotel, travel, and of course time to do partial work just to get all their claims taken away from them, and somebody like me to pick them up and make 10 G's off of them while sitting inside of of his hotel. Yeah, it was quick too, man. I felt so, I was submitting these things and I'm thinking to myself, like, wait, what if this person comes back? What if this person finds out that I did that? Can they come after me for this? Can I be sued over this?
No, that's like a story as old as time. I mean, when I was on my very first storm, I was doing that where I was scoping and scoping and scoping, because it's like you're doing some activity, right? So you're like, all right, well, I'm working here because I'm out every day. I'm working hard in the sun. I'm climbing roofs. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Blah blah blah. But my inspected to closed ratio, so I had like 1 or 2 claims closed and like 20 claims inspected, and at the time they were keeping track. They keep track of that stuff now through Xactimate, but at the time we had to do it by paper, so I'd have to turn in like a sheet with barcodes on it. It was such a pain in the butt. Man, but my manager called me and he's like, "Listen, Matt, you're overscoped. I need you to come into the office, bring all your files. We had paper file back then. Bring all your files. Right. Let's go through them, see where you're at, and maybe we can pull this out of the fire." Basically telling me, he's like, "Cancel all your appointments for today because you're in the office." And
right.
I got scared, and rightly so, because if I couldn't close those files within probably that day, I was going to get them taken away. And if I was allowed to keep any, maybe, or probably just get sent home. It was a really, really big hailstorm in Chicago back in 2000. So you
probably felt like you were losing money over him bringing you in, right?
Well, yeah, I thought I was in big trouble, which I could have been, but he basically did that. We just started at the top of my stack, and he opened the first one up, and he went through each one. He's like, "All right, well, you're missing." He's like, "Matt, you're just missing the invoice and the agent's copy on this one. That's 5 minutes right there, Matt." And he just went through my whole stack, and this one, you got to write the estimate on it. But he's like, "I'm looking at the photos. You got roof gutters and one elevation siding, 25 minutes, right?" So,
easy.
So I basically took him over into a cubicle in this big CAD office and did them all. And
right, it's just because you knew at that point, right? Yeah. At that point, it went from an insane stack of paperwork where you just couldn't even wrap in. I'm speaking on your behalf here, so
Yeah.
you interrupt me. But you went from having this crazy stack that you just looked at and said, shit, man, I don't even know where to start.
Yep.
That,
Oh,
you
man.
know, I don't even know what the easy one is here. I don't know where, you know, it's just, it looks way bigger. You know, that stack might be 2 inches high, but it could be 2 miles high at that point
Right.
until you get somebody who knows what they're talking about. And they're like, oh, look, this is a bullshit one. You know, that's easy. You know, this one, oh, this was just one slope. That's it.
Yep.
Done. You know, and then you're like, oh man, I could have been thinking that this whole time. I could get this done. I could do this. You wouldn't be there if it wasn't for somebody, you know, telling you that.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be sitting there struggling, you know?
Oh, I would have gotten kicked out of the storm, most likely. So, and I will say something about when people go on these big catastrophe events and they, you know, they're doing fine and they get assigned a bunch of claims, they get 7 claims or 17 claims that are in all those different stages of being completed by some adjuster that just spun out, couldn't handle it, and ran away screaming, right? Or if you're doing a reinspection of some other adjuster's work and they're not on site, or the insured wanted a different adjuster or whatever it is, I think it's critical, and this is one of those things that goes towards your likability as an adjuster, to follow, you know, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Absolutely.
One of which is
great book.
Honor the absent, right? So if you're looking at somebody's, and I'm not saying you, but, you know, speaking to, you know, new folks out there, even experienced folks who may be guilty of doing this, you're looking at the previous adjuster's work and you're like, oh man, this is terrible. This is the worst thing ever, you know. And you're just talking to the insured like that. Don't worry, I'll get this all fixed. I don't know, this other guy, your previous adjuster sucks, you know. And you just throw that guy under the bus. It happens, and I hear about it happening. It's if the IA firm, that's going to be a phone call, right? It's at the minimum, you know, the insured's going to call their agent and be like, well, I mean, I don't know, are they all getting the same training, or, you know, what's going on here? This guy's, you know, the first adjuster that came out was terrible, and it just, you know, I feel like you guys are dragging the process out, and da. Agent's calling your manager, you know, or calling your manager's carrier manager, and then your manager's getting a call from the big boss. So you, like you said at the beginning, nobody's phone needs to be ringing unless they're calling to say, hey, we just really wanted to say how great of a job Jeremy was doing, you know.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He couldn't pay for our claim, but we really felt that he gave us a fair shake and he took care of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, huge likability.
Yeah. If you can, and new adjusters, if you can get that to happen, ooh boy, are you in a great, if you can get an attaboy from somebody at a carrier, man, you're going to make friends real fast with people, because, you know, if there's one, you know, there's no surprise that, you know, claims adjusters are, you know, not looked upon kindly by everyone.
Correct.
So if you can find yourself in a position, especially in a position where you're insured, okay, is given a good review to the carrier, and thankfully whoever that good review went to, whether it was, you know, through a customer satisfaction survey or directly to the desk adjuster, if that review can make its way to the IA firm that you're working with, ooh boy,
that's marketing for them.
It's massive. Yeah. Now you're improving sales for the company you're working with. Now they look at you in a different light.
Yep.
Right. And
that's the first call list right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, and I could be talking out of my butt here, but I wouldn't be surprised if something like that is held above your ability to estimate. Honestly. I mean, I don't know about cycle times. If you're terrible with cycle times, if a great review is going to really help that out. But I could almost bet that if you've got a couple good reviews to the carrier, if your estimates are kind of shaky, they'll look at that first. Yeah, they'll look at that first. That just shouldn't give you a license to be crappy, you know, with your estimates. No. But that will definitely, you know, at the end of your inspection, if you want to drop in there, hey, look, you know, it was a pleasure working with you guys on this one, and you know, you should hear something back. And you know, if everything goes well for you, I'd love it if you put in a good word for me, something like that. Ooh, boy. Obviously, don't say that when they're getting denied. Don't. You want
No, you don't want to be asking for a 9 or a 10 when you're giving them a zero, $0.
Yeah, just make sure you leave that review before settlement, all right?
Yep. Hey, Mr. Insured, how's it going?
It's going great today. How are you doing?
Good. This is actually Guy Grand from Veteran Adjusting School. So you want to learn claims from the most experienced veteran adjusters, but you can't find anybody who will let you ride along with them? Then let me tell you about Adjuster TV Plus. Developed by Adjuster TV and its industry partners, including the high-end Training Center Veterans Adjusting School in Arizona, Adjuster TV Plus is a growing library of in-depth training videos created just for independent adjusters. Learn scoping and estimating from professional trainers and adjusters. Learn how to handle customer interactions with confidence. Learn the ins and outs of scoping and estimating exterior hail claims. And detailed videos about how to handle smoke, ice dam, water claims, and auto claims. Adjuster TV Plus also features the very best of 3 years of Adjuster TV's YouTube videos, educational, entertaining, and inspiring. Come ride along with us on Adjuster TV Plus. So I think customer service on the carrier side, and I don't know if I told you this or if you knew this, but I worked for a major carrier for about a year as a staff adjuster.
Okay.
And got to see the inside, got to see the other side, and it was very eye-opening, very, very educational. Customer service is the king. If they can retain that customer, no matter what,
right,
they can fix everything else, right? As long as the customer stays, doesn't cancel them and go off to their competitor, then they're going to be happy. So they're going to weigh that customer service metric above everything else. You still got to be good, and on CAT in particular, you got to be fast, right? So I tell people, I'm like, listen, you have to remember the name of the game is volume. Right? You're closing a lot of claims.
Right.
And again, as we talked about this a minute ago, you want to get that first bunch of claims, then you want to get assigned more claims, then you want to get assigned more claims, and then when there's no more claims on that event, you want to be called for the next event. You want to set yourself up for that next event.
Right.
And that first call list, they'll the insurance company will say, hey, they'll call their IA firm that's working with them or that they sign claims to, and they say, hey, we just got a big hailstorm in Sioux Falls. We need 15 adjusters, and we'd be delighted if 5 of them were the people on this list, right? Because they're keeping track of that stuff because they want, you're the kind of the product of the IA firm, and if you do a great job like that, and if you treat everybody with dignity and respect, everybody in the whole process, you're not throwing anybody in the bus, you're not fighting with contractors in front yards, then you're going to get a lot of work.
Right.
Period. And they can work with you on your estimating skills, and the other parts, they can give you remedial stuff, or they can tell you to, everything's your customer service is awesome, but you need to work on your estimating. We suggest getting training, or go to our website. We've got an LMS system where we have all this extra training for this stuff. They're gonna want to keep you because it's a rare trait to have really, really great customer service, and just to understand all of the relationships that are involved between the carrier and their insured and the IA firm and the sales apparatus and everybody. If you can have your brain wrapped around that big picture, then I think you'll always be a guy or a girl will always be doing claims.
Absolutely. You know what I love? And I haven't had this, I don't think, pop up anytime recently, but it's happened more than a few times. Maybe you could relate. I've gotten calls. Obviously, these are for daily claims. I've gotten calls from IA firms. You may get a call saying, "Hey, Matt, we've got a potential new client in the area. We just wanted to know if if we did end up getting claims from this client, if we could rely on you to handle them."
Yeah.
They don't even have a fee scale for that, and that's one of the best phone calls you could get, because when I would get those phone calls, and I'm at a point where I'm not going to take work from anybody unless I saw the fee scale, right? I don't need to, guess. I'm making plenty of good money, but if you're going to call me and you're going to tell me that you're working on getting a client in that area, but you don't know how much you're going to get paid, listen, I'm going to tell you just right off the bat, I'm in 100%. You're getting a new client here. Let me tell you this right now. If you end up getting that client, you give me a call. Give me a call first. And, if I've got availability at that time, I'll make you a priority. And when they come in, and that's what they want to hear. They want to hear certainty. They want to be assured that if they get this opportunity with this insurance carrier, whoever that might be, that they're not going to botch it. And the only way, and it's going to be hard for them, you know, they could botch it in their own way. But the field people that are out there, listen, I'll be the first to say, IAs suck. Independent adjusters in general and on average are freaking awful. So if you're an IA firm and you've got a territory that you don't have a reliable asset in, it's freaking frightening. Yeah. So if you get somebody that's willing to say to you over the phone, hey, listen, I got your back on this. Give me a call. If this gets landed, you can rely on me. And then if it does get landed, they're going to call you up and they're going to say, hey, listen, we're about to go live. Are you good with potentially getting claims next week? Like, yeah, absolutely. Did you work out the fee scale? If you're new, you shouldn't even matter about that. But if you have been doing it, yeah, you work out the fee scale, send it to me. If everything works out, I'm good. I've had more than a few times where I found that I was the only person that they really had. They might have interviewed, a handful of other people that they found online, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to be the number one reaction out of their phone call. That's what I want. If they're smart, they called like 5-10 adjusters, right? So I don't know who they called. I don't know how those phone calls went. All I can control is how my phone call goes. And I'm going to blow them the F up on that phone call. I'm going to let them know. I'm going to make them go all in on me, right? Because what's going to happen then? If they end up getting a great contract, what happens if their minimum fee is like $350, right? I want to be your number one guy. You don't need somebody in the northern part of the state, the central part, and the southern part. You don't need all that. If you got a $350 base fee, I'm doing everything. Yeah. Especially if I'm going to make over $500, if it's over $5,000 in damage. No, you just need me, my friend. That's it. I'm going to handle your whole territory, baby. I'm going to grow. And so the few times I've gotten that phone call, I push this value where, listen, I'm going to be somebody, and I say this a lot. If I can't help you, I'll find somebody else who can. I want to be of service to that company. I don't want them to experiment with other adjusters or anything like that. Even if I can't help them, I want them to come to me. I want to be in control of where that money goes. And if I legitimately can't help them, if their fee scale is all right, but it's not in line with what I'm working with at that time, listen, I'm going to give it to somebody that I know and somebody that I trust can put together a good work product, right? I want to control the money. Yep. That's coming in. But even if that doesn't happen and you still have that possibility of being that firm's number one person. And if you're that number one, which might sound strange to some people and it might not be possible in certain areas, but if you can be the number one asset for a firm, man, that's how you really start to rake in some money, especially doing daily claims.
Oh, for sure. I mean, again, it all kind of goes back to how valuable are you to them, right? So how, in other words, like people ask me the question, they're like, well, if I'm being interviewed by an IA firm, what kind of questions should I ask them, or how should I do the interview or whatever? And I'm always like, listen, you have to make it clear to them that you are there to help them achieve their goals, right? Obviously your goal is to earn money, and you want to earn, if you have firm A and firm B with carrier A and carrier B and everything's the same except for one carrier, one side's got a much better fee schedule, you're probably going to want to go with that guy because it's better for your bottom line. But no matter what, like you said, I mean, people, I can't, this is something that bothers me.
Let's hear it.
People complain about mileage.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to get any mileage on that. I'm like,
oh my gosh. Okay.
Well, okay. So you could have a lot of work, and if you have to drive, like how much does it cost to fill up, your car with gas? Like I put 20 gallons in my 4Runner, and it cost me $50 maybe, right?
Right.
And maybe I'll, and I can get 300 miles out of that, which is terrible. But that's maybe if I have a 150, mile round trip, it's going to cost me $50 out of the $300 or whatever it is I'm going to make on that claim. If I'm Johnny on the spot, go-to guy, they're always going to call me for those claims, or not always.
Right.
They're going to call me for those kind of claims because they know they can count on me. I'm like the get out of
You're
jail
at least the
card.
first phone call.
Yeah, I'm the get out of jail free card for my firm's manager, the guy that's who's usually dispatching claims to me, and they remember that. Are you new to the professional claims industry, confused about exactly how to get started as an IA, worried that the advice you're getting on social media might not be totally accurate? Then you need to check out IA Path. IA Path helps adjusters get started in their new career in 90 days with online mentorship programs and training. If you need help getting started or making a transition as an adjuster, head over to iapath.com/adjustertv for a free video course showing you how to get working in the next 90 days. That's iapath.com/adjustertv. They remember that. Right. Well, Matt has been so helpful to me. He went and drove 600 miles one way for this claim. And it was such, it was, we tried to give him a little bit of extra money on the side just to make it worth his while or whatever. We couldn't pay him mileage or whatever it is.
Right.
Matt, I get a call. Matt, we've got 60 commercial claims, apartment buildings in Minneapolis. They got 3-inch hail on them and they're all right next to each other.
Yeah.
You want to go? Yes.
That's a great example. That's a fantastic example. And you're 100% right there. That it drives me crazy too. I will say, I'll be a stickler about mileage if I know the fee scale is not good and I don't really, and at that moment I don't really care. But especially if you're new. If you're new, this should be a non-issue. And the point that you just made is an excellent example of why you should not be worried about taking that far off claim. It could be a one-off claim, but let's be honest, you don't know it's a one-off claim unless you've got a history with that company and they only send you one-off claims, right? I've had companies just like what you would explain, minus the Minnesota deployment, right? But you don't know that until you've been in the game for a little bit. Yeah. There's one example, and this is a real life discussion I had with somebody. So when I get a claim from somebody, let's say they called me up and I've never done business with them before and they've got a claim that's 2.5 hours away. I ask them for the fee scale. I take a look at the fee scale. I take a look at the first notice of loss. Kind of sounds like it might be a denial. The base fee is $160. No mileage, right? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to apply to me, but if my availability allows for it, I might take that claim. And here's why. Here's a real life example. I have a company that I've worked with over the last probably like 4 years, something like that. Mostly cat claims, but they started getting some claims in my local area. So the last 2 years, they had been giving me claims in local area or somewhere close by, right? Mm-hmm. Within a handful of hours. So when I get a phone call of a rando claim that they want to run, I'm not looking at that $160. I'm not looking at whether or not I'm going to get mileage on that. What I'm looking at is my profit and loss statement. And I want to look up what I've made off of that. So I recently it was right before I think I left for a vacation. They called me up. They had 2 claims that they needed to send me and they needed them done quickly. Okay. So I looked at them. I was like, I could run them, but I just don't have the availability now. And I don't want to, kick your claims out. So I, recommended a buddy of mine that does them. Now he lives further away from these claims than I did. So, and I was already at a point where I kind of just didn't have the time to do so many of the claims for this one client. So I kicked him back to a buddy of mine. He looked at him and he said, they're too far away. I can't do that. It's $160. It's 2 of them. That might only net me like $300, $350. Not going to get mileage on that. It just doesn't make sense. Now, the point I should mention is that this particular person had availability. They had an open schedule. They had just been complaining about not having enough claims. And they're turning down 2 claims, which, to his credit, were low-paying claims. That's because he was looking at the claims on an individual basis. He's looking at $350. I didn't look at $350 when I considered them. What I looked at was $25,000, and that is what I had made off that firm the year prior. was $25,000. So that's just focusing on the prior year, that's a $25,000 client. So by running those claims, by saying, they're kind of outside of my territory, I got, they're kind of low, I don't want to do it, I'm potentially going to miss out on on that $25,000 that year or the following year. I think the year prior to that, they were like $35,000. And I think the year prior to that, they gave me Michael claims and they were like $100,000 or like an $80,000 client. So they contributed a portion of my annual income,
sure.
Right? So if you kind of look at everything in the micro and you don't look at it in the macro, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could be shortchanging yourself because this buddy of mine, he could have very well said, you know what, I'm going to take those claims. And even though he's a buddy of mine, I wouldn't blame him for this. He could have said, I'm going to take those claims and I'm going to give them better customer service. I'm going to get them done faster than Jeremy does. And I'm going to make them like me more than they do Jeremy. I'm going to make them call me first. And he could have very well did that while I was sitting out on the beach somewhere, kicking up, letting all my claims go somewhere else. He could have snacked it. He could have snuck in there and landed himself a $25,000 to $75,000 a year client, but he didn't because he was focused on the $300.
Yep. I'll say it's not really, when we talk to people, new adjusters, they're all worried about fee schedules and everything else, and they shouldn't be, and they shouldn't be worried about mileage. I mean, honestly, you add up a $25,000 client. I mean, how much gas can you possibly buy in a storm season? Right, it's probably several $1,000s easily, but it's not $25,000, right? So you're not losing money necessarily.
Far,
It's not how you start though; it's how you finish, right? And I would say even let's talk a little bit about more experienced adjusters. I think a lot of people will get kind of pigeonhole themselves. I did it in the first half of my career, only as a cat property adjuster. I was doing in my heyday, I was doing like 60% residential and 40% commercial. If I had to do it over again,
about the same.
Yeah, I'd probably try to push into something, the larger losses, the bigger properties, being more like 60-40 commercial or, 80-20, 80% of that's commercial. One of the claims that I don't like to do, because you always have to get all the paperwork and the covenants and the agreements and all that stuff for condo.
About condos, yeah.
But a person, because nobody likes to do those, a person who specializes, they've got a lot of experience doing residential property, fire, water, wind, hail, whatever. They've got some experience doing commercial. They've done. You're gonna do condo claims no matter what. Even if you're brand new on it, you get assigned claims on a big hurricane. They're giving you everything that they have. If a person can specialize, I think, in being like the condo guy or the condo lady, and you're like the expert at them, and you knock them out really fast. They're correct, right? Because it's hard. It's easy to mess up a condo claim. Then you're gonna
that's a good value add.
Yeah, so then you become, even more valuable to your, to the carriers and to your IA firms. And again, that's more marketing. Well, we've got Jeremy. He's our condo guy. And you're going to be in Florida, and there's a bazillion condos. You need to get on their experience. I mean, because that's how the firms are talking to the carriers when they, when they're renewing their contracts or when they're doing whatever. We've got Jeremy, we've got Matt, we've got this guy, we've got that guy.
That's a really good point. I've never actually thought of that on the marketing side, to market yourself as the condo guy or the condo gal. That's huge. I mean, if you're, like Florida, for instance, is easy because they have the universal. But man, if any other state where you have to actually review those bylaws, I mean, I hate it. I hate dealing with it. I couldn't ever see myself using that tagline. I don't want you to give me all those condo claims. I want to work hard so that I can put not the condo guy at the top of my resume. Right. But if you're looking for But if you're at a point where you're looking for an edge, where you need that edge because maybe you don't have as much experience, maybe you got one or two, like one deployment in, maybe two. Dude, if you learn that and put that on there, people are going to say, I'm going to venture to say that there's not a single person with a tagline on their resume saying that they're specialized in condo claims. Nobody.
No.
They don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that, but that's how you win. That's how you get that's how you get on that first call list. Even if you don't have great experience, like, hey, this person's only got 1 or 2 companies, but they're willing to do condo claims. We'll make our other first callers, our core adjusters, we can maybe go easy on them on the condo claims and put them in a position to succeed while we throw most of the condo claims to the condo person, and we'll throw them some other stuff too, but that's huge. That's a great point. Yeah.
Same thing for like large loss contents,
oh my God. Ugh.
But yeah, exactly. I think, the kind of overarching point of that whole thing is that the insurance industry is a big industry. There's so many different things that a person could do in it, not just being an IA, doing hail claims or hurricane claims. You start out that way, but you can, as you build, you get your levels 1, 2, 3 certifications for Xactimate. You're getting these carrier certifications. You pick up your AIC. You pick up your CPCU, right? So you start to get these more advanced insurance industry credentials, and it puts you into a position where now you're the storm manager for a major catastrophe, or now you're the operations manager at a big IA firm, right? And you're making a lot more money. Well, the operations manager might argue with me on this, but you have potential to at least,
depending.
I think if cat property is probably one of the highest paying gigs in the whole thing, and you can stay there, but you get tired being out in the field, man. I mean, I know you feel it. I mean, it's like there's only so many. It's like Groundhog Day every single morning, man. You get up, all right, climbing roofs again. Time to make the donuts.
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, especially out on a big wind cat event, and you're doing a high volume. You're there to make money. I've never been full cat. I always, did daily, and there was just a handful of cat events that I've been a part of. But if I was solely just exclusively reliant on income at a cat event, then I'd have to work, I'm already working as hard as I can during a cat event, but if that's my only time that year, I would imagine that I wouldn't do anything except maybe sleep a couple hours, man. Especially you do 15 claims in a day, man, and you're now at your 15th. And and you're counting down the minutes before the sun's down.
Yep.
And you're at that last one, and you're sitting in there, and you're just sitting in your car, and you're looking at the house with the window up, just thinking, I don't have to go in there. Do I really have to go in there? I could reschedule this one. They won't care. And you're just waiting, to get there.
But then they see you and they come out, hey, come on in.
And then you just put it in drive.
Yeah. And I think people hear 15 claims a day, and a lot of adjusters, because I get pushback saying that I'll do on cat 7 to 9. Like my minimum is 7. Like I'm not doing any less than that unless it's like
same here.
So
Hurricane Michael or something big.
Yeah. So I think what people forget is that as an adjuster who's been doing it for years and years and years, and who recognizes again that it's a business, and that every moving the mouse across your screen costs me time, right? So I'm every single possible thing I can do to build efficiency into my workflow and maximize the amount of money I make that day, that week, that cat, and that year is something I'm going to focus intensely on. So I'm going to close claims in the field. Like in the old days, I think these days are still going to more like the scoper writer thing, but there's still plenty of opportunities out there for full-fledged adjusters. But back in the day when everybody you had to settle a claim and write a check, I'm still closing that claim on site. And I'm building, because I don't want to work at night. I want to go eat dinner and go to bed. I'm not going to work at night. There's corrections and things you got to do, make phone calls and whatever, but I'm not staying up till my first cat. I was up till 2:00 in the morning, and I was up at 5 this morning, 3 hours for, 2 months.
Remember those days?
You can't do that, man. But you do it because you're like, well, and then you figure out, well, maybe there's a way I can not do that. Right. So I figure out that way.
Right.
And, I've done, I'll have days where, I want to get caught up, and so I'll do 10 or I'll do 12. I've done 18 was like the most I did in a day, closed on site that I did, and there was a bunch of no damage ones, and there was a hailstorm, so it wasn't all like an estimate for every single one. But I did 18 in a day, and that about killed me.
Ooh,
but
I think my record was 17, something like that. But I think there was at least a couple.
Oh, there probably half of them where it had no damage. So it wasn't like it was like in total a bunch of 55 square roofs.
That's it. But you still got to brag about it. I still bragged about it.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing, man. It's like you have to remember also, like a lot of adjusters, they're working in Texas and Dallas and Amarillo, where they've got everybody's roof is 45 squares, and it's like a whole bunch of facets, and they're all these 10, 12 steep hip roofs. If you get deployed to Florissant, Missouri, north of St. Louis, if you get like the suburbs from the 70s in a lot of these, in most Midwestern towns, everybody's got a one-story ranch that's a straight gable, front slope, back slope.
Yeah.
I mean, if
that's
you
adjusted
can't,
porn right there.
If you can't do more than 5 or 6 of those a day, then you suck.
Right.
Because those are the easiest.
Oh my gosh.
It takes literally the amount of time it takes me to describe it, to run your tape down the front rafter, run it down the back rafter, and then walk the length of the ridge and get that. And then you're done with it. And then you got 2 slopes to do your test squares, and you're off that roof.
Yeah, you could be done within 30.
Yeah, you're not up there.
And if you got the next one up the street.
Yeah, and then you're walking, you put your ladder over your shoulder and you walk to the next one next door. I mean, that's the ideal scenario.
Yeah. Man.
So
let me ask you a question, Matt, on that point that you said about the incremental, right? Because I'm the same way. Once you kind of get over those, or saying before, those big delays, like the estimating delays and stuff like that, you start to, and you've been doing this long enough, you kind of get to the point where now you start looking at the little tiny things that you do, right? And in the Xactimate training I'm doing, I treat every video like it's the only video that somebody watches, right? So let me ask you this: do you use, when you do claims, do you use any of these apps that are available for like photo labeling? How would you do your photos?
No, and there's a couple of reasons. I think I'm not taking as many photos as I feel like a lot, especially new people are. New people are taking, like, I think, too many photos. I'm getting the photos.
I agree.
I'm taking them in the order that I need to, which you should be doing anyway.
Right.
I can type really fast. So
okay.
I've gotten used to going through the image tool in Xactimate, where there's a couple of keyboard shortcuts to like go from field to field to field, from picture to picture to picture to picture. You can select a bunch of them and change their image name and description and all that stuff with just once. So I don't generally do that. I will say though that I've been talking to Xactware, and they've got a roadmap, I think, coming up to make some fairly significant changes to Xactimate over the next 2 years. I can't really say a whole lot more than that, but I think getting photos labeled and into Xactimate is going to be a big part of that.
Really? Okay.
But that being said, there are apps out there, obviously, a lot of people try to develop them. I get emails from people saying, "Hey, I got this app for labeling photos," or do you use Caption Builder, or do you use this? And there's a couple of good ones out there. myadjustimate.com is one of them. I think that does a pretty good job of like letting you label as you're taking the photo. Right on
the device.
Yeah, and then you drag it. You connect to your phone to your laptop, and then you just drag them over, and it puts them all in order and everything. With folders. Label, like, I don't know. It's pretty cool, and
you're dropping them in the folders.
Yep, and you can be pretty fast with it. It's a bottleneck for sure, I think, for a lot of adjusters who are like, well, I really want to be able to close 7 claims a day, but I'm sitting there for an hour labeling photos.
That's the problem. Yeah. So, that, I feel like we're on the same page with that, because that, some of these apps are good, but at the same time, I feel like they're correcting something that may possibly be easily corrected. Like me personally, if I'm spending over an hour on photos, it better be a large freaking loss that I've got 200-300 photos in there. Otherwise, I feel like if you can't correct that issue just by taking some classes to get more proficient with your typing, I mean, it just comes down to labeling your photos a correct way. And what I was saying before is, I'm doing these Xactimate videos, and I do every video almost like it's the only video that they've watched. So I'm going through the same process in there, and it's using hotkeys, and it's just using your keyboard, using the control button, using the shift button, and just using your fingers in a way to just get through it as quick as possible. And what the, what photos warrant a different description than other photos, because you're 100% right. A lot of adjusters, especially when they're new, they're either going in one of two directions. They're taking way too few photos, or they're taking way too many photos. Too few photos, you're going to have a hard time justifying that estimate that you put together. Too many photos, you're going to make your desk adjuster freaking hate you. And it's going to cost you time too, and you could have, some of the guys that I've trained, they'll go out, it wouldn't be absurd to see them go out, do a claim, let's say it's just, basic kind of water loss, a couple ceilings are damaged, they've got the floor, something basic, maybe like a, $5,000 estimate, and they got 150 photographs. Most of them are of the same shit. It's just, they're taking photographs to take photographs. And then they're describing them, and every photo's got a unique description to it. It's like, you're going to be here all day doing this. You got to find an efficient way to put this together. So, and once you finally get to the point where you've taken care of all the obvious efficiency hacks, then you start to get to those little tiny things, using your keyboard the right way, and, using the shift button, use the control button, how to name your rooms, how to organize your rooms, something like that. And a big part of it too, and I'll add to this one last thing, is figuring out a consistent flow. And no matter what your flow is, making it so that it's consistent. Because like one thing that I've noticed, especially in the beginning, right? And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When you're new, right, you don't have a flow. You're still figuring it out. You don't know what to do first. You don't know what to do second. You're going into your inspections. You're going all over the place, following the insured. Then when you get back, you're gonna do the photos for that claim, because those photos were pretty easy. You get that done. But then you got to double back, and you're gonna do the roof for the other claim. You're just kind of you're figuring that if you just, as long as you keep working, it really doesn't matter. What claims get done, because the wheels are at least moving, but they're moving in all different directions. Once you get, and there's all in between all of that, is just thought. It's just thinking, what do I do next? What do I do next? Oh, we'll do this next. And one thing, especially when you're new, it's very easy to do as an adjuster, is overthink. You're overthinking everything. Do I need to, and that's why you take too many photos. You're overthinking it. Or you might be underthinking it. You take too few photos. It's understanding where that median is. Now, once you start eliminating thought, it sounds terrible, but I try to think the least amount when I'm handling claims. I don't want to think. I want to be a robot. I want to just turn up and turn my speed dial all the way up and get it done. I already know how to get the job done. Now I'm just going to get the job done fast. That's all I'm concerned about. I don't need to worry about what I'm going to do first. I don't need to worry about what I'm going to do second. I already have my process, and I'm just going to execute that process as quickly as possible. A lot of and new adjusters, just simply put, they just haven't done it long enough to know what that process is. But that's the number one, in my opinion, is just getting that process down, getting that flow.
For sure, 100%. I mean, and it's I tell people, I'm like, listen, you're going to close a volume of claims. You have to, on CAT in particular, and not because you're going to be going like moving physically faster, right? You're going to be faster by taking less time to do every part of the process, and then doing them in such a way, and scoping in particular, doing these things in such a way that you're not backtracking, and that you're not setting yourself up to miss damage or to get lost in your flow.
Right. So, I just did a class. I just did a class yesterday, just on the inspection process in our Facebook group, the Claims Justice Success Network, just going through the flow. And a big important part of that is what you just said, and that's accuracy. One of the most destructive things you could do, when you show up to a claim, 100%, you should listen to the insured. Let them get every ounce of information off their chest
Yes.
Because if you don't let that happen, then they're going to start to hate you. And if they hate you, then you're not going to get that good review we talked about. You're going to get a bad review, and that's devastating.
Yep. Sure.
So you want to let them tell you everything they have to tell you. They want to bring you up to, the outside to take a look at something. Then they want to bring you to the basement. Then they want to bring you to the second floor, then the first floor kitchen, then back outside. I mean, you could try to steer it and say, listen, let's start outside. Then we're going to start at the top, work our way down so we can figure out all this. But you just let them get everything off their chest first. And then that's when you execute your flow. That's when you actually start your inspection process. Because if you walk around with them and let them dictate your claim flow, that's when you're going to start to miss things. That's when you're going to start to not ask the questions that you need to ask, because you're following at the speed of the policyholder who it's not their job to know when to dial back. It's not their job to know when we should sit for a second and make sure that we get all the questions answered in this one area and investigate and check moisture levels and do everything like that. So it's important to have that, have a flow so that, just like you said, you get all the information the first time rather than having to, waste your time and your money by doing a follow-up call, by asking questions, or having to deal with a rejection because you just simply didn't address something like you should have in your report.
Right, exactly. And I think it's really important to point out that you're going to get in a lot more trouble for missing damage than you are for, an overwrite here and there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the carrier QA people will come down on you with like a ton of bricks if you're underpaying. They want to pay what they owe, not a penny more, not a penny less. Obviously, if you're consistently overwriting, you're going to hear about it. But it sounds counterintuitive, I think, to a lot of people that, the insurance company, they should, they're trying to save money. But, well, of course, they're trying to save money by paying the exact right amount, right? Not by paying too much. They don't save money by underpaying, because then if they end up in court, then they're going to end up paying way more than it would have been anyway.
Right. Overwrites my middle name.
Yeah, right. So,
I don't know about that. Don't quote me on that. Yeah. But first and foremost, I'll say this. I don't like working with an insurance carrier that has a lot of rules to follow with estimating, right? Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter how many rules a certain insurance company has. The rules that they have do not dictate what the market rate for repair is. It's just their rules to it, right? Some insurance companies will allow O&P on 3 or more trades, or let you just kind of figure it out, if it looks reasonable. Some won't allow for it at all. Yep. And if it's a company that's not going to allow for it at all, and then you're going to send that estimate up, and then you're going to be asked to handle the supplement request that comes there, that comes after, because you wrote up an estimate following their rules. I mean, first and foremost, I don't like working for that insurance company, especially if, because at that point, that's just, you're kind of diluting your fee at that point, right? If that makes any sense, you're just spending more time working on that. But so I've in the past, I've towed the line on getting the most out of my estimates. But if you're the type of adjuster that, and I've never understood this, if you're the type of adjuster that kind of really underwrites and just kind of sends out the bare, that really just sends out the bare minimum intentionally, which I don't personally know anybody that intentionally does that.
I've seen it.
But I've certainly heard stories, and I can't help but, be assured that person does exist. I mean, you're going to deal with that on the supplement end. I mean, you're going to have to reinspect
just creates work for everybody.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe you get the estimate right and bump it up to a point where it's agreeable after the reinspection, after supplement request. But at the end of the day, you're probably just going to make the same amount of money you would have made in the first place. So you just invested more time in handling the same thing.
Exactly right. So you're going to spend less time doing the same amount of work. So, and again, this kind of comes into, adjusters will get lost in the details. They'll be afraid to make decisions, right? So they're scared to spend the insurance company's money, right? So that's when a lot of those underwrites happen, because they're like, well, it sounds expensive. My like kind of like free pass, when I want to write an estimate that I think is going to be reasonable, but I might be leaning up against the estimating guidelines a little bit, I want to have the contractor there. And if I can get agreed scope and pricing with that guy, if I negotiate a few things, I give a little bit here, but take a little bit over there, maybe I can honor the spirit of the estimating guidelines, but I kind of bend it a little bit over here to give him some money to get him,
You're supporting your estimate.
Yeah, he comes down a little bit, I come up a little bit. When I have in my activity diary or the GLR, it says agreed scope and pricing with contractor. I mean, everybody is happy because the claim is off their desk. It's off everybody's desk. All they got to do is write an RC check on the back end, and they don't have to fight about it. They don't have to. The desk adjuster doesn't want to have to sit there and negotiate with the contractor over the phone based on an estimate that he didn't write. Right.
Nobody does. Yeah.
I want that guy. I want that contractor there, and I want to get it nodding heads before I leave. So that's why I write it up on site too, because I'm going to be like, all right, bro, I want to go jump in my truck and write this up. What?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, what do you want me to do? I'm going to just hang out, talk to the insured, or, sell them on the roof colors or whatever you want to do. And I'm going to write this thing up, and then we'll make sure that our numbers agree, and then we'll be all done, and I'll be out of your hair. Okay, cool, man. That's really great. They love it.
That is the best way to get a great review, especially if you even add in there, put a little salt and pepper on it, and said, "Listen, I'm not going to go to any other claims until I get your claim done right now. I'm going to go out to the car. I'm going to write this thing up. Hang tight. Let me get the." And they're like, "What? You're going to go right now? Are you going to have a answer?
When am I going to get paid
today?" Yeah. I'm not going anywhere until I get your claim done, sir. Okay, you got my back, and we're going to come to an agreement. You are the man. Thank you. And then you hit him with just, make sure you leave a good word for me. All right. Take care. Take care of your
Yeah. If you could just be sure to give me a 10, that'd be great. Well, listen, dude, this has been a really cool conversation. Tell us, if people want to find more information out about Adjuster University and all that stuff, where can they go?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, you can go to adjusteruniversity.com. That's adjuster-university.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out the courses that we've got. But right now, we're trying to compete with a big name in the YouTube space right now. We're trying to grow the YouTube channel, so go check us out at Adjuster University over on YouTube. And, one thing I've been trying my best to grow, and I'll go on one short rant. I promise it's going to be short.
Go for it.
Is our Facebook group is doing really well. If you're over on Facebook, check out the Claims Adjuster Success Network. When I don't know, Matt, if you were around during this, but when I first started Adjuster University, I got a lot of heat from other adjusters on there. These people I thought, were my brothers and sisters in this in the biz. And so I thought, man, if I'm going to start something up and try to get more people involved, what's not to like about that? Come to find out, a lot of people didn't like it.
Right.
So I found that there was a lot of unsupportive Facebook groups. And even to this day, you can't go into certain Facebook groups and ask a question as a new person. You're going to get eaten alive.
That's right.
And I thought that was the absolute worst thing I could, I didn't enjoy it, but I got pretty thick skin. I just sent some derogatory memes at them, and had a blast doing it. Some of these people don't have skin as thick as I do. So, it was terrible to watch that. So, I decided, listen, you could go in any business you might be in, you could find a mastermind of just people that are, have the same forward-thinking mentality that you might have, that are just looking to support you. They don't want to break you down. So I started the Claims Adjuster Success Network Facebook group, and that was the number one priority, was to have a group of positive, forward-thinking adjusters that aren't there to criticize you, aren't there to make you feel bad for asking a silly question, aren't there to do anything. They're there for one point, to build you up so that we can all be successful together. So especially over the last couple months, we've had so much more engagement, so much more growth. And I hate sounding cliche, but it's becoming more and more of like a family sort of vibe. Awesome. Right? And some people come, some people go, but you're not going to walk away with anything negative to it. So, if you're tuning in, you're watching this, I'd love for you, if that sounds like something that would benefit you, come Claims Adjuster Success Network, Facebook page, Facebook group, go check that out. Follow us on Facebook, and, feel free to shoot me a DM, slide into my DMs. And, like I said at the head of the show, I'm at a point now where, I just want to help. I want to help people. I want to make connections. I want to build other people up. I've humbled myself a whole lot since the very beginning of this thing. And man, I just want to make sure that everybody I interact with is on the right path, making sure that everybody, that wants to succeed, is doing the right things to succeed. So Jeremy Reddick, come find me, or Adjuster University, baby.
If you enjoyed this episode of Adjuster TV Radio, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Find more episodes at adjustertv.com/podcast.
This is Adjuster TV.